So the next thing I want to talk about is after the waiting room, when the doctor came downstairs and we had to be brought upstairs into the room, I was absolutely petrified, and I didn't want to go upstairs into the room. I don't think I was like understanding actually exactly where I was, but all I knew was I didn't want to go up to the room. I was petrified. I was absolutely the most scared I've ever been in my whole life. And the doctors and that, they were pulling. There was two of them. There was one man, one female. That was pulling me by my arm like this, and I really didn't want to go up them stairs. And I was thinking that when I go up the stairs, I'm talking about spiritual psychosis, my spiritual psychotic episode that I had in 2008. I was just thinking that they were going to take me up to the ward. They were going to take me up to this room to torture me. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And when I say torture, I knew very specifically what they were going to do to me. They were going to torture me with knives and stick loads of knives, in me. Yeah, and I knew with no shadow of a doubt, I knew this is what they was going to do. And I was absolutely petrified, terrified. I was so absolutely terrified. I did not want to go upstairs into that room because I knew these people were going to torture me. This is what I was going to do. So that's like I said, this thing, what I was experiencing, there's certain impressions that always I remember. I remember absolutely everything, my whole state of mind, what I was going through, what I was thinking, what was happening. I remember all of it. Yeah, I remember the doctors. When I got a bit better, I remember my CPN nurse asking me, do you remember what you was thinking and what you was... I said, yeah, I remember all of it, everything. And she was like, so, and what do you think about it all now? What do you think it was? And I just shrugged the whole thing off. When I got better, a couple of months later, I was all right. I just was like, I don't know, I don't really think anything about it. I was like this, I don't think anything about it like this. Because basically I was in the hospital for a week. And they tried to put me on 10 milligrams olanzapine, they called it. But I didn't take my medication. And when I came out of the hospital, I was adamant to my nurses that I was like, listen, there's nothing wrong with me. I said to them, there's nothing wrong with me mentally. Okay, I didn't sleep for a couple of days, a couple of nights. I went off my head because I didn't sleep. That's the reason. And actually, I'm back to normal now. I'm fine. Okay, but obviously, the doctors, so they think they know what's best and they're the professionals and all of this. So they wanted to put me on this program. They called it the early intervention program. And by the way, all these things, these doctors, these professionals, they cannot do anything. You, as this entity, you have to give them your consent. And if they feel like you're not in your right frame of mind to give them your consent, what they will do is get a guardian to give them consent. They can't do anything. They can't touch you. They can't do anything to you unless they have to get that consent from yourself or, like I said, a legal guardian. So, obviously I think they explained all of this, they want to put me on this program and blah, 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 blah. And they had to ask me, do I want to go on the program? Is that okay with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, yeah. So, and the program was for 4 years. Yeah, I had to sign, yeah. And it was called early intervention. They called it the early intervention program. And during this program, I got assigned a CPN nurse who came out to see me every week, like once a week. And then I had to have a psychologist. She reassessed my situation. She came out to see me about once every month. I think I had to see her, this other lady. Psychologist, which was different to my psychiatrist. She was overseeing my case. And then I had to see her once every, 3 or 4 weeks or something to reevaluate and reassess and see how I was mentally how I was doing. But like I said, I was in the hospital for a week, and when I got not admitted out, you get admitted in. When I was an outpatient, I came out. It's just something that happened. I just wanted to get back to myself and get back to normal. And I really didn't feel like anything was mentally wrong with me, but the thing that I kept experiencing after I came out of the hospital was this, which I still get now, which I've come to realise now, it's nothing to do with my mental health. It's part of what they call it now gangstalking, or being a targeted individual. But I didn't know about these terms at this time. I didn't know anything about this gangstalking or targeted individual at this time. Which was, I was feeling that if I'd put on the radio, whatever channel I was listening to, it just felt like these people were watching and following everything I was doing and then relaying it in the radio show. And same with TV, which I've mentioned before previously in some of my videos. How, say for example, I'd be cooking something in the kitchen that particular day, and the very next day they'd be cooking the same thing on the TV. or I'd just be feeling like whatever was going on with me in my life, the next thing they'd be talking about it on the, like in the media, doing like a whole fragment or whole program about a very similar thing. And yeah, so I used to like, you know, talk to and tell my CPM, my psychiatrist, my psychologist. I used to obviously tell them about this sort of thing what I was experiencing, and they just put it down to like paranoia. Oh, she's having like paranoid episode. She's having like paranoid schizoaffect. They never called me schizophrenic. I never got any form of like diagnosis of schizophrenia, but they called it schizoaffect like symptoms. They called it like this. They said, oh, she's having like these like paranoid schizoaffect like symptoms. Yeah, but like, as I said, I think once I started to clock on with all this, with mobile phones and how people spy on you for the spyware and all this stuff, because that's another thing I was finding, that friends that I'd have that like, I had this one friend and he kept mentioning like Betty Boo, or one time he mentioned like my Betty Boo knickers or something like this, when he'd never, I think I had these knickers that had Betty Boo on them, but he'd never seen my Betty Boo knickers. So then I was thinking, how does he know I've got Betty Boo knickers? And another time, I walked past this, they had Rupert the Bear in the window in the store, and I was walking past this like Rupert the Bear display in the store, and this friend that I had would be phoning me up talking about Rupert the Bear. So things like this was going on, and I'd have to tell my I didn't have to, I was saying I'd be telling my CPN, psychologist, things like this, you know, there's like these coincidental things going on. And, you know, I started to clock on to, obviously, like, people, like, using spyware, and people who work in security. Sometimes if they're, like, your friend, if you're a friend of a guy and he works in security, and half the time they start to spy on you, like, through your phone, and, you know, watch your location, find you where you are, and, you know, just start, like, stalking you and harassing you and this sort of thing. So that's what was going on, but I didn't actually, obviously, like, I didn't realise this is what was actually going on initially. And then I started to understand what was going on. You know, obviously now I understand all about this gangstalking, being targeted, you know, being stalked and harassed, and, you know, this sort of thing. People just like not minding their own business, spying on you, monitoring you. They call it monitoring spirits. You know, 24/7. They get some kind of obsession or some kind of fascination with you, and they can't stop. They're just spying on you. So when I started to clock on to what was actually going on, at first, I used to tell them, like I said, my doctors and whatever, and they'd put it down to, oh, she's being paranoid and this and that. And then when they'd invite me in again, I'd have to go and sit with them again. After a while, I started to say to them, you know what, I don't think it's that, it's not mentally what's going on with me. I'd say to them, I said, I've come to acknowledge now, I realise now that sometimes when you're on your phone, you know, they call it algorithms, where you'll get like adverts popping up on your phone that are all to do with, it's like they track your phone. I was explaining this to her about how algorithms track your phone, and then they just kind of, it feels as if, you know, you're being followed and you're being monitored, but actually that's not what it is. It's just the technology of today, you know, makes things like this. I tried to, like, you know, reason with her to make her realise that I'm not going off my head. I've come to realise, I've come to my own understanding. Actually, this is what it is. It's just the technology of today has become that advanced. And they'd sit there and be like, oh yeah, like they basically agree with me. Like, oh yeah, we see now, oh, we get you. Yeah, it's like there's a word for it. I'm thinking, I can't think right now. It's called, but not algorithms. You know, the advertisers, they track you, they monitor and they track you. You know, they do targeted advertising specific to yourself. Yeah, I'm thinking of this. You know, the marketing, the advertising. So basically, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they'd agree with me after a while. They'd be like, oh yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, probably that's what it is. You know, so not knowing that, after I'd come to that assumption and explain that logically to them, they still went ahead and done this massive write-up about me and said that I was like paranoid and I was having schizoaffect and this and that. I didn't know they were going to basically, you know, the way they act is like they sit like they're befriending you and supporting you and, you know, trying to see you for your mental health to get you better. But actually what they're doing is, you know, they go away, they write the reports, they make the notes, and then they just, in the long run, personally, what I feel, they just make things a lot worse for me than what was necessary, because then you get stigmatized, you get this label, and you know, anybody who wants to go and look back into your like medical history and they see all your notes and stuff, and then they've put all these massive labels and so, oh, she was this, she was hallucinating, she was you know, being delusional, and she was hallucinating, and she was being paranoid, and she was this and this, and where, you know, it just kind of you get stigmatized. Basically, it can cause a lot of stigma, you know, when you've done a lot of work on yourself. I just put it down to, you know what, I didn't sleep. You know, I just need some sleep. I need some sleeping tablets. I need to get back to normal. I just wanted to get back to normality, you know, and get back to, you know, studying and working and carrying on with my life, you know, my relationship and whatever else. I didn't expect to be stigmatized through this 1 week that I went off my head for the next like 10 and 20 years of my life, you know. But basically, I found that that's, for me, that was the effect that it had. That I just got stigmatized for the next 20 years of my life from this 1 week's episode that I had. But getting back to, yeah, when I was hospitalized, yeah, I was just feeling absolutely petrified. I didn't want to go upstairs. And I kept feeling like this thing, like, when I go up the stairs, I'm going, the more I'm going up the stairs, the more I'm going, I think, to hell. And when I'm coming down the stairs, I'm going to heaven, or the opposite way around, or something like that. It's very similar, like, how I was feeling. Like, when I'm in the building, I was feeling like I was in hell. And when I was outside of the building, in fresh air, around the greenery, you know, all this, I was in heaven. I was in, like, the heavenly realm. So the same thing was occurring in my mind, like, going up the stairs and down the stairs. It's like, when I was thinking I was going up the stairs, I felt like I was going closer to heaven. And when I was coming down any set of stairs, I felt like I was descending into hell. I don't know where this thought was coming from. I don't know. But, yeah, this petrified feeling. Yeah, I was really thinking that the doctors were basically going to torture me. And there came a time where, you know, they have to do like a mental assessment. And they brought me into this room. Excuse me, I'm getting distracted with this case, what they're talking about on the news. So, yeah, I was feeling like they were going to torture me. And I think this was another premonition I was having of when I was actually pregnant. And they had to do a C-section on me. Because when I was pregnant and I was going into hospital they had to induce the birth. Extreme, same emotions I was feeling. I was so petrified. I've talked about all of this in other videos that I've done. I was just so petrified of having to give birth. And obviously you have to go under anaesthetic when they do the C-section. But they literally cut you open, don't they, with a knife. And I think I was just this torturous, this petrifying feeling that I was feeling under this psychosis. I think basically was a premonition of this occurrence when I was pregnant. And also, I had an operation prior, so many years before, and the after effect of the operation, I was in a lot of pain. And similarly, likewise, I think that this petrifying feeling I was feeling, and this thought that were going to torture me with knives, yeah, I think it was like a delayed reaction from the operation that I'd had previously under anaesthetic. Because obviously, so I really think under anaesthetic, you know, because they had to cut me open, right? And I think that obviously your body must feel that intense pain. But obviously they had to put me to sleep so that I don't feel the intense pain. So I think somewhere in your spirit, even if you don't feel the intense pain because you're under anaesthetic, you've been put to sleep, your body is still experiencing that intense pain. So I think when I had this psychosis and I was feeling like, you know, these people are going to torture me and put me under immense torturous pain, I think basically it was a delayed reaction from how my body was maybe feeling this intense pain, but under anaesthetic, you know, while I was sleeping. So it's like my spirit, after all that time, had like woke up. If you want to, if I, you know, can explain it like this, you know, it's like my spirit after all that time had gone by, you know, like being woken up, and that's what I was feeling like. Oh, these doctors, yeah, they're acting like they want to help me, but they're just going to put me under this intense pain. So yeah, I was thinking about Jesus. I was actually feeling as if I was Jesus, but I was like this female. There's so much to this psychosis I had. Like there's many different fragments of it I can go into and divulge and talk about, but I'd be here all day. I'd be here, you know, till thy kingdom come if I like explained all of it. But another part, I was feeling as if I was Jesus, and that these doctors were. I was feeling as if I was a female Jesus, and that these doctors were gonna like torture me, just how Jesus was like tortured on the cross, and I was absolutely petrified. I can't explain to you how petrified I was. Okay. And you know, like later on, I kept feeling like I was actually Jesus, yeah. But then I kept having this thought, like, how can I be Jesus, yeah, if I'm a woman? Because Jesus was a man, yeah, he wasn't a woman, yeah. And then how else? I just basically, the whole time I was in the hospital, like I said, I was in there for 1 week. I was feeling like I was in a hellish realm, like I was in hell. And then I kept reasoning with myself in my mind, like, how did I end up in hell? How can I be in hell? You know, and I kept thinking, where was your Jesus? Yeah, I kept thinking, like, I'm a Christian, yeah, like, I'm a believer. Yeah, how, even still, I can end up in hell? I kept reasoning with myself like this and having this thought. And then the thought I kept having was, you know, God is God. He's just, and all his decisions are just and righteous. So if this is God's decision that I should end up in hell, that's the right and just decision, because God is just, he's righteous, he doesn't make a wrong decision. And I kept thinking like this, but God, how you can make me be here in hell? Why? And I kept thinking, what can I do? I need to do something to get out of this hellish realm. But I knew there was nothing I could do, because I knew God's decision was just and right and true. It's really, I can't, like, it's really, I wish for everyone, yeah, not to have psychosis, like, not to go off the head, right? But I've said before, yeah, that sometimes I watch these videos of people when they've had a near-death experience, and they talk about, you know, during the near-death experience, traveling to heaven or going to hell. And I've said how, even though I've never had that near-death experience, I understand totally what these people are talking about. I get it, because literally the same thoughts and the same feelings, as if I had a near-death, even though I didn't die, it was as if I had a near-death experience. And that's when I was like, and when they say things like, you know what, the hell realm is as real as this realm, and heaven is as real as this realm, I totally understand it and get what they're saying, because that's exactly how what I was like spiritually like experiencing under this psychosis is exactly how that was. It was like I kept feeling like this is hell, and hell is real. Like, this is like, it can't get more real. Like, it wasn't like, okay, when you think of hell and fire and brimstone and all these people like being tortured, and, you know, it's like in the Bible, it's very dramatic. It's very like apocalyptic Greek drama, dramatic. Yeah, but it's not my psychosis when I had spiritual psychosis. It wasn't like dramatic like that. It's just exactly like this reality, but you're in like the spiritual realm, yeah, of heaven or of hell. Yeah, so this is basically what I was, you know, what I was like. I can't say I was experiencing, I can't say I was feeling, or the only best I can describe it is like this was like the impression that came upon me. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like an impression that came upon me like this. Yeah, like, okay, this is the hellish realm, this is God's decision, yeah. What am I supposed to do to get out of this eternity? And that is why I kept thinking, it's like I knew, okay, this is my eternity, yeah. And I kept thinking, how could this be my eternity? What is this? Yeah, I kept thinking and feeling like this with these doctors, yeah. And I'm just skirting now one thing to another, like over just the main things. Another thing, yeah, you see my teeth? It's like people, when I'd be looking at the doctors, their canine teeth here would be really emphatic, like standing out to me, their teeth. And I was just feeling like these doctors around me, like they were all vampires. And yeah, it was like that. They were like these other entities. They were like vampires they were all communicating to each other in this like code language about me. And my whole emphasis just became sort of like, I need to just get out of this realm, whatever it is. And my way to get out of the realm was to go outside. I needed to get outside. I needed to be in nature outside. Anyway, so I'm going to end this video here, because I know I'm just at the moment, I'm talking about this thing, then that thing, and that thing, but that's how these experiences are. It's like you're experiencing, like, it's like you're feeling, you're experiencing, you're having this impression, everything all at once. And then it's very hard to relay, it's very hard to describe. But I'm going to end this video here. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. Watch the next one. Bye.